Hello everybody, it's Jujube, and yeah, it's been a while since I've done a talking Jujube episode. It's great to be back. Mainly it's because I was sick for like 2 weeks and I couldn't talk that well, or I couldn't talk for long periods of time, and I didn't feel too good. And then I had like projects and stuff to do, so then it kind of just all like got in the way of being able to actually just watch the episodes, not even review them. So that kind of got in the way of being able to make the episode. So because of that, I'm changing what I'm doing for talking Jujube. They're not going to become monthly recaps. They are becoming monthly recaps. Oops. They're not going to be weekly recaps anymore. They're going to become monthly. So I'm just going to cover the entire month's news in Tokyo and all that in one episode, so that kind of I only have like one weekend or one sort of day to do all of that stuff, and I can just relax and watch for the rest of those, because it's also been taking out a lot of time for me to make my other videos for the channel, and that's kind of why, that's part of the reason there's a delay for all the videos now, because talking Jujube takes so long to render, like an hour or 2 hours, and it takes up a lot of time. So talking Jujube is going to be a monthly thing from now on. Maybe I'll do weekly occasionally if it's like a big thing, but just for the time being, it's gonna be a monthly thing. So let's jump into it. We have Build, Lupin Ranger, we have the Power Rangers comics, and I'm gonna talk about Avengers Infinity War, since, you know, it just came out last week. So let's get to it. So we're gonna start with Build. So we start with the episode where we end off, or we're in Pandora's Tower. We're still battling. We're battling the Kaisers, and by the end of the episode, we retrieve Pandora's box, and we've kind of sort of defeated Bloodstock, but he kind of makes it seem like he wanted to be defeated. That episode obviously had the reveal that Banjo is an alien. We reveal that his mother was like infected by an alien and either became pregnant or was pregnant, and the alien copied its DNA to the unborn baby. So Banjo is either part alien or is alien. Either way, he's not entirely human, and that was really interesting. It's cool. I don't think we've ever had a Kamen Rider. No, I'm sure we've had a Kamen Rider that's not entirely human, but this is the first time that I've seen a series with a not entirely human. Oh, well, I guess Kota for Gaim at the end, but I'm not gonna say that because spoilers. But I'm going off on the sidetrack. And obviously this episode, since, you know, we reveal Banjo's an alien, they're like, oh, he's an alien now, let's give him a power-up. And he becomes Cross-Sea Magma. And this form, everything about this form is just perfect. The form, I complained before about the undersuit being a little too orange. It actually works really well for me now. There's even like a slight hint of like a yellow gradient in it. This form just looks so amazing in action. It looks so good just like standing there. I already have the Soto set for it pre-ordered because I really want that figure. There's no deluxe figure for it, so rip. But it also has an insert theme, and the insert theme is so awesome. Someone made like an audio only version of it without the lyrics. It's so good. I can't wait for the lyric version of it to come out. I love the finisher. I love like the bottle bun and that standby noise in the knuckle. Everything about Cross-Sea Magma is perfect. And we see it's more powerful than Bloodstock. It defeats Bloodstock. That's how they get Pandora's box. And then they leave, and they leave Pandora's Tower. And then we jump to the next episode where we're kind of discovering, we discovered beforehand Banjo's an alien. Then the rest of the cast discovers calling him Banjo, he's Ryuga, but it doesn't matter. They call him Banjo. We discover the rest of the cast discovers Ryuga is an alien, and it's like kind of a big deal because now they're all like, wait. So, like, just imagine if your whole life, you know, you think you're normal, right? Maybe you think you think you're normal, and then someone comes up to you and tells you you're not human or you're not normal, you're like an alien, and you're like, no, I'm not. And then they give you proof and you're like, oh, I am. Like, just, they really did a good job. Like, Ryuga goes to like his girlfriend's grave and is like talking to her like, oh, I guess I was never an alien, huh? And Sento doesn't seem, I mean, he doesn't seem all that surprised, because he kind of said it in the episode beforehand, where he was like, what if he's not an alien, or what if he's not human, guys, because this is the one person whose hazard level is raising the fastest, who they specifically said is, or who they specifically framed to put in jail. Like, why didn't they frame me? No, they framed Ryuga. So they obviously had a reason to do all this stuff with Ryuga, and he's obviously special, and they reveal it's because he's an alien. And I don't think Grease does a lot in these two episodes. I think he like gets knocked out in the Pandora Tower episode, and in this one he's just kind of there. So, or no, I believe that they called him and said, come give us Pandora, or Saito called him and said, come and bring us Pandora's box, or else we'll kill the rest of your friends on his farm. And he says, no, I can't go, like, I can't like, he feels sad because these are his friends, but he knows he can't really give up Pandora's box because that would give Saito all the power. And then his friends even said, like, no, don't come. So he knows they're kind of accepting their fate. So it's really sad. And then now we're gonna jump into something that was really clear in this 3 set of episodes, which is the journey that Kamen Rider Rogue, that Genchiku goes on. And the first, I don't know the episode titles actually. That's why I'm referring to them like this. In the Pandora Tower episode, we see that he reveals there's a chip inside of me that can kill me. So he tells Sento the Prime Minister is not the Prime Minister, it's Nanba. And I think that's all he says. Yeah, I think that's all he says. He basically says, like, quick, let's keep fighting so it looks real. And then he basically lets Sento defeat him. And then we just kind of see him on the ground, like, no, or something like that. And then in the next episode, we see that he goes to capture, yeah, they go and capture his father. He captures Prime Minister Taizen, yeah. And then they have him captured, he's in prison. And then they're like, oh, great job. And now that we've captured him, they use him as a bargaining chip to get the Evil driver, which I'll talk about later. And then later on, he reveals that he's like kind of been, he's not doing what they want anymore. Before he was like following their orders, because I think they had the same goal of unifying the country, Saito and Genchiku. But now that the Sato's Prime Minister is not himself, it's Nanba, now he's like, alright, I'm not allied with these people. So he saves Grease's friends when they're about to kill them. He's the one who's supposed to kill them, and he cuts all their bonds and then starts fighting the Hard Smash, or Hard Guardians, my bad. And then they also show off like the chip inside of him, where they de-henshin him, they take him out of the transformation. They're like, look, we can do this, you better not be doing that ever again. And he does it again in the next episode, where he breaks his father out of prison, out of the prison, and then Utsumi uses the chip on Genchiku, and then the father actually like knocks it out of the way, and Genchiku henshins and is like taking out, or he's, you know, they're gonna escape. And at the last second, his chest, you know, the red energy comes out, he falls to the ground, and Bloodstock's like, look, I had one too, ha ha ha. So Bloodstock, now let's jump into Bloodstock for this, because Bloodstock really also went on like a kind of journey, because in the Pandora episode, the Pandora Tower episode, the Magma debut, he is like, you really feel how like calculating he is, because he basically, like, he's the one who causes Cross Magma to be born. He's the one who shoots the energy at Ryuga that creates the Magma full bottle that allows him to transform into Cross Magma. So that's really interesting. It kind of makes me wonder what would have happened if Stock didn't do this, if we'd ever see Cross Sea Magma. No. But we do get to see Cross Sea Magma, so it's all good. And then at the end of that episode, when they're leaving, he says, oh, I have the perfect vessel. Now all I need is the ultimate driver. So it's implied that Ryuga is the ultimate vessel, or the perfect vessel, because now that was after he created Cross Sea Magma essentially and got beaten by it. And then in the next episode, when they're attacking Toto to get the Prime Minister, to capture the Prime Minister, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to capture the Prime Minister to get the Evil Driver, I guess. So he's fighting, and he says to Ryuga, oh, you know, our powers are the same. They're both meant to destroy the world. And Ryuga believes, like, no, that's not true. And, you know, Bloodstock's like, well, of course it's true. Everything's my fault here, boy. So then Ryuga has the resolve that, yes, we may have the same power to destroy the world, but I'm going to use it to save it. And then, you know, they beat up Bloodstock, he leaves. And then when they capture the Prime Minister, he calls Sento and tells him, I have the Prime Minister. If you want him to live, if you want him back, you need to get me the Evil Driver. And then that's it. And then Sento's like, well, I don't know. I don't know what the Evil Driver is. I don't know. Like, all they know is Misora's, when she was possessed by Vernage, all they know is she said Evil. That's about it. So they don't know what to do here. And then they look it up on the build database thing, and it returns something like, oh, you don't want to know. They type it into somewhere else as a password, and it gives them all the information on Evil, on Soichi. So basically everyone's theory was correct. That I think everyone figured this, that Soichi is being possessed by Evil. When he went to Mars and he picked up Pandora's box, it released the spirit, I guess, of Evil, which then went inside of him. So now Soichi, at that point on, Soichi was not Soichi, he was Evil. And then he comes down and he also grabs the driver, the Evil Driver, but it turns out it's like broken or something. So when he returns to Earth, he gives Sento's father, who was in charge of the experimentation on Ryuga, they give him the Evil Driver and he repairs it. But Katsuragi, who would soon become Sento, takes the driver and hides it. And then when Evil tries to like activate the Pandora Tower or something, he wants to destroy the Earth, like just right there, he was trying to destroy the Earth. He can't do it, and instead it creates the Skywall, which I guess wasn't planned. The Skywall is just an anomaly on Earth. It didn't happen on Mars. And I get the feeling that Evil's like done all of this before. He's taken over many other planets. Maybe he's not Martian, maybe he's from another planet, and he's done this many times before, which is kind of frightening to think about, that this isn't his second time taking over the world or destroying the world. No, this is his like maybe 20th time doing it, like, right? That's kind of scary to think about. So Sento finds the build driver, or not the build driver, speaking of the build driver, actually what's really cool is they actually explain why they're like repaints of each other. The Evil Driver is obviously as like a toy. Obviously it's a retool of the build driver, because, you know, the build driver came first probably, and then later on they're like, hey, we can repaint this and sell this as a new toy, let's do that. But in the show's continuity, what's really cool is, since the Evil Driver came first, the build driver, Katsuragi designed the build driver and modeled it after the Evil Driver. So that's why they're so similar, because the build driver is basically like a copy of the Evil Driver. That's really cool. And it's really cool to explain just the repaintingness of the build, or both, really. They didn't have to explain that. I would have accepted, oh, it's just a repaint to sell toys. But they did explain it, and that's really cool. And it also kind of explains why the finisher for the build driver says Voltec finish, and the Evil Driver says Eviltech finish. You just take away the E and Voltec. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna stop talking about the drivers. It's still cool. It's still really cool they explained that. So they get the build driver. I mean, I keep saying this is gonna happen a lot, guys. They get the Evil Driver, and they go to the place where they've set up to meet with Bloodstock. They get Prime Minister Taizan, and Sento's gonna hand over, or no, Sento's about to hand over the Evil Driver, and they're about to hand over Taizan, the Prime Minister, when Rogue's like Spider-Man's his way out of the corner and beats up the guards and pushes his dad over to the Rider's side. And then I'm like, oh, okay, Rogue's like helping out again, but now he's gonna get shocked. And Bloodstock's like, yeah, you're about to get shocked, dude. He pushes the button on his handle, or on his trigger, and nothing happens to Rogue. And then they explain that when Rogue got the other activator, I don't really know what to call this, the other handle chip thing, he gives it to Sento, and they use that to like change the frequency of the chip and whatnot. So now Rogue can't be controlled by Sento. Now he's a free agent and can do whatever he wants. And it can be presumed he'll join the Rider's side, which I talked about before, kind of hoping he would be an anti-hero or something like that. He can actually join. I'm okay with him joining the Rider's side now because of what they've explained, or what they did at the end of this episode. Because then, basically, you know, the Prime Minister leaves with the Evil Driver to where Misora and Sawa are outside. He gets in the car, or they're about to get in the car, when Bloodstock lands and is like, nope. That's mine. That's mine. Give it back, please. Anyway, he tries to get the driver, and I think they like push him to the side. Rogue, I think, comes and attacks Bloodstock, and he basically pushes him to the side where they can get in the car now. Or no, he unhensions him. He kicks him out of his transformation, and he's on the ground. And Misora's holding the Evil Driver. This is the thing he wants. You know your father's evil, Misora. But, like, this is the thing he wants. Just give it to someone else and run up to him. She runs up to him with the Evil Driver, allowing Utsumi to just come out of nowhere, take the Evil Driver, and throws it to Evolt, who now, or Bloodstock. I'm calling him Evolt from now on because now he's officially Evolt. And now he has what he's been after this whole time. He puts it on and henshins it to Kamen Rider Evolt. And now I'm like, well, Kronos is back, guys. Because, I mean, let's be honest. This is the Kamen Rider Kronos of this season. Repainted driver, ultimate power, he's super powerful, he killed someone, it's Kamen Rider Kronos all over again. And I'm fine with that, I like Kronos. So, Evolt's here, but it was really dumb how Misora just ran up to him. Like, even if Utsumi wasn't there, you can bet it. You can bet that Evolt would have grabbed the driver from her and pushed her off to the side or something. Because we don't even know if this is his actual daughter, right? So, I don't know, that was really, really dumb on Misora's part. But, as I said, Evolt henshins, and then he refers to himself, basically this is Evolt, like, Cobra form, phase 1. So, we know he's getting another form later on, multiple forms actually, he gets quite a few forms. But, he specifically says phase 1 for this Cobra form, and then we see, like, the constellation on his head. So it makes me wonder if this constellation can change, and it changes his powers. That would be pretty cool without having to change the form. I don't know, but they say phase 1 specifically, so I'm sure there will be a phase 2 for Evolt. And then we see him basically like take Rogue to town. He beats him up. Like Rogue was not winning that fight at all. And then he's about to kill Gentoku because he's like, well, I can't take him over anymore, might as well kill him. And then his father runs in, blocks him, and now his father has died. And Gentoku, basically, that ends Gentoku's journey for these 3 episodes. Standing over his dead father, and basically referring to him again as his son, and saying like, please atone for your sins, work with the other riders. And then he passes away. That's where we end the episode. So that was quite an awesome reveal for the Evil Driver. Really established how powerful Evil is. He was going to kill Gentoku. He ended up killing the Prime Minister instead in a sad moment. But he was going to kill someone in that situation no matter what. So it shows how ruthless he is. So, yeah, that was a great 3 episodes. I'm not going to talk about the preview because this has gone on quite a long time just for Build. But great 3 episodes for Build. Definitely looking forward to what's to come for Build. And, I mean, I always am. But this time I'm even more looking forward because now we've introduced what I'm assuming is going to be our final villain for the show. Because Evil has, again, that Kronos feel from Kamen Rider XA. So, definitely an awesome 3 episodes. We've got cool new forms. We've got cool new story threads. Cool new things to do. Just great 3 episodes. So, these 3 episodes of Lupin Ranger versus Paddle Ranger have also been very, very good. Kind of. I don't know about that second one. They're a little episodic, though. But that's just the nature of Sentai. Kamen Rider kind of more is this flowing thing. Sentai can be a little episodic, but granted, we're still kind of in the beginning of the show, so I assume later on we'll get more of like a through line with plots and whatnot. So anyway, in episode 10 of the show, we resolved the broken collection part, the plot that was established in episode 9. So, you know, they're trying to retrieve they discovered the Lupin collection piece wasn't destroyed. The monster just copied itself and left. So they're trying to find this monster, obviously. But Lupin Red doesn't know that. So he goes after Zamigo. So we got a great introduction for Zamigo. definitely probably my favorite villain because he's like, you know, so charismatic, but he's very interesting too, and he really feels dangerous, like the most dangerous villain personally. The other villains don't feel as dangerous because they just kind of sit around all day, but so did Zamigo too. So anyway, villains are kind of weird. And then we also debut Lupin Kaiser Knight and Lupin Kaiser, or no, just Lupin Kaiser Knight, but we debut Lupin Red Knight form. I guess, I don't know what this form is called. Lupin Red Knight is its official name now. Yes. So then that's pretty much all that happens in that episode. Nothing much really. I mean, that was a lot, but it's more of a continuation of the prior episode, and since I waited so long to do this, not too much really happened at this. Now, from the point we're looking at it, not really anything happened, but at that point, it was definitely an important episode. And then we move on to episode 11, which, no, that was a weird episode. Definitely, I think the worst episode of Lupin Ranger versus Paddle Ranger so far, really, because they're filming a movie for the Paddle Rangers, right? That's fine, it's Sentai silliness, you know, but then the Monsters Lupin collection piece allows him to change genders, and I guess it's just because of the way Japan works. It's different from the way America works. Like, they can obviously say death in an episode, and we can't say die in Power Rangers. Like, okay, but anyway, like, they change their genders, and it's weird because the way they act, they're like, it's gone, and they're like squeezing certain parts of their body, and it's just weird. It was weird for me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, the Lupin Rangers pretty much had no part in this episode. It was a Powder Ranger episode, except for the final battle, of course, the Megazord battle. But it was pretty much, or no, I don't remember whose Megazord. Or yeah, it was the Lupin Rangers. Okay, I'm sorry, but that was just weird. Like, it was so weird the way they acted. I was just like taken out of it. I was like, no, please, no more. And then they switched genders again. No. So thankfully, I do appreciate the fact though that when they morph, red and green actually got, the suits actually got a skirt, and pink lost the skirt. So that's honestly like just a minor little detail that's pretty cool, just, you know, keeping that consistency within the series. But like, other than that, it was just really strange. I didn't like that episode, really. I mean, I didn't hate the episode because we actually did something with Sakuya where we show like he was a cadet in training when Tsukasa and Keiichiro were like already on the Gangler team. So he looked up to them, and he was like sad he couldn't accomplish his goals, and Keiichiro gave him like a heartwarming like speech kind of to get him back, and here we are today. Now he's a Powder Ranger along their side. So that was really cool. I'm at least glad it wasn't like just a completely silly episode. At least the cross-dressing, I guess I would say, because they actually switched their gender, so it wasn't really cross-dressing, but at least they kind of explained it in the show, so it wasn't just an out of nowhere thing. Hey, you're a girl. Hey, you're a girl. Hey, you're a boy. It was the monsters like, all right, poof, you're changed. So at least they explained it within the show's continuity, but it was still strange. I didn't like it. And then at the end, we also get the Hammer Dial Fighter, and which is just a retool of the blade. And it's, I mean, it is cool how the monster's powers, as weird as they were, did change its ability, because did change it. It went from being a sword to a hammer, and they're like, blades or weapons have genders, which also made me a little confused. Like, wait, weapons have genders? My sword's a girl or a boy? Okay. But you know, that was weird, but it was at least a welcome explanation for why Hammer appeared. And I guess that means we'll never see Hammer again, because it is a promotional item in the toy line. So I guess that would explain, you know, this one and done appearance of Hammer. We're probably never going to see Hammer Dial Fighter again, unless they somehow find a way to switch the sword's gender, which is still a ridiculous concept. So episode 11 was just honestly really strange for me. I didn't like it too much. But we move on to episode 12, and episode 12 was just really great. It felt very similar to that one episode of Ninja Steel where Sarah finds the Speed Star from one of the Galactic Ninjas, and she wants to put it in her hoverboard to win the race. The hoverboard, it wasn't a race, it was a speed record, but I'm making it better, to win the race. And then she feels guilty about it, or no, she doesn't feel guilty about it until she wins. Everyone else is telling her, you know, that's not good, blah, 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 you know, all that stuff. You've probably seen the episode, and if you didn't, that's good, too. So, but it was like that, obviously, as I said. But it was done much better because this Sentai actually knows what it's doing, unlike Ninja Steel. Because it was done really well, because this kid, he wants to win the race to impress this girl. You get the feeling he wants to impress the girl, but he also just kind of wants to make her happy because she can't walk anymore. So it was also nice to see he's not kind of being selfish, really, like, oh, I have to impress the girl. He wants to make her happy. So that's really great. But it was cool that he gets this Gangler piece. It was the first time, really, the Gangler lost its Lupin Collection piece in, like, the first episode, or the first, like, 5 minutes of the episode. He was still a threat later on, but it was cool the Lupin Rangers could just be like, yeah, Powder Rangers, you can go get him. We don't need him anymore. The Powder Rangers are eventually the ones that take him out on the ground and in the Megazord. So then the Lupin Rangers need to go and get this Lupin Collection piece from the kid, because, you know, they need it or else they can't get their loved ones back. And it kind of connects with Lupin Blue, because this golden bracelet, basically, that's what it is, a golden bracelet. I think it's the Time Force changer. I don't know, the Chrono changer, I think there are in Japan. But it's like a gold repaint of that, which is cool. I like that they're like repainting these older seasons gimmicks, I mean. So then Toma is like reminded of this fairy tale that his fiance would read and would say like, oh, fairy tales are nice, and Toma's like, well, they're not real, so what's the point of them? And she says, well, oh, well, it helps you, you know, feel better after you come home from like a long day of work, she says. And he like doesn't really seem to understand, because that's just the kind of person he is. But then Kogure shows up and reveals this book is actually like written by a friend of Arsene Lupin, and that's why there's a similarity between the bracelet and the book and the bracelet of the Lupin collection. Like, it looks identical, there's no mistaking it. So this kid believes, this kid's a track runner, so the kid believes this bracelet will let him run faster. And Kogure actually, so this is where I get a little kind of confused. Kogure says that the Lupin Collection pieces don't work with humans. That's why they have like the dial fighters and the trigger machines. They can't use a normal piece. But then, this is a bracelet, so it kind of makes me wonder, like, is this kind of designed to work on our wrists, and the monsters don't have actual wrists? So, okay, sure, I'm just gonna nod my head. And then he basically says it doesn't work with normal people. So then the kid doesn't know that, so he puts on the bracelet. Lupin Blue's like trying to take the bracelet from this kid. He's telling him like, please give me back the bracelet or else you're gonna get in trouble. The kid outruns him because he's a track runner, and then he hides it and he goes and gets it. But we find out later that Lupin Blue switched it out with a fake, which he didn't really have to do. Oh, well, I mean, he didn't have to do, but we know why he did it. So he switches it out with a fake, but this kid doesn't know it's a fake. He believes it's the real deal. This is what the monster used to run fast. No one else knows it's a fake. So Toma tells the kid, okay, here's the collection piece, put it on and get out of here, run fast out of here. And the kid runs fast, and Toma tells him like, it won't work unless you believe in yourself, like believe I'm fast. And the kid runs out of there. Basically, I mean, it didn't feel believable, because we saw how fast the monster was going when he had the collection piece on. So then when this kid is running and it looks like he's running at normal speed, it's not like I was fooled, like, oh my gosh, look how fast he's running. No, he's running normal speed. We didn't even have, so that's why I'm confused. We didn't have to know it was a fake. We didn't need this to be a fake, because not only did Kogure say that the Lupin Collection pieces, he said the Lupin Collection pieces wouldn't work with humans. So why did we need to switch this piece out and make it seem like this kid was running fast when we already established that he wouldn't be running fast with the thing? So they kind of like faked us out there, but it's like, oh, you faked me out. Wait, I already knew that. Like, look, he has a piece on, he's running fast, but you just told us that this won't work. Oh, look, but it had fake, that's why it doesn't work. But you already told us that it wouldn't work anyway. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it had a great message, the episode. Like, the kid won wearing the bracelet. He makes his friend happy. She's like, yay, you won. And then he runs up to the Lupin Rangers, and he's like, here, you can have this back. I don't want it. I didn't feel good winning with it, because he thinks he cheated. And then Lupin Blue says, Toma says, well, you didn't cheat because that's not that's not the actual thing. And he holds up, oh, this is the actual one. That's a fake. So you did run that all on your own, and it's because you believed in yourself. So that was a great message for kids, because I'm sure kids watched that. So that was a great message. That's what we need to do in Power Rangers. That's a great lesson of the day that didn't feel unnecessary. That's basically, as I said earlier, this was the Speed Star episode of Super Ninja Steel done right. This was done well. This kid didn't feel like unnecessary. He didn't feel annoying. He felt like a necessary part of this episode for the message of this episode. And this episode's also like a mirror of that episode beforehand, where that was all Power Ranger focused and the Lupin Rangers just show up to fight the monster. This one felt the same way. This was all Lupin Ranger focused and the Power Rangers just show up to fight the monster. So at the end of the day, this is a great set of 3 episodes for Lupin Ranger versus Power Ranger, and I'm looking forward to what is also to come. Looks like we're getting like a girls focused episode, which once again leads into some identity revelations again. I mean, I'm always thinking about that because I don't want them to do it so early. So great set of 3 episodes. Looking forward to what's to come. Now we move on to Power Rangers. The Shattered Grid has returned and is just as good as it was the first time. It's just killing it, because the Tommy funeral, which is the first time I think we've had a funeral in Power Rangers history, it was very emotional for just being a comic book. Like, we had the characters crying. We see Jason receives even the gold Dragon Ranger powers, because Dragon Ranger, the gold Green Ranger powers, the gold shield, because the powers won't work with anyone anymore except for using it like that. They have to like lie to Tommy's parents and say it happened in the alleyway by like someone else. They can't obviously say, oh yeah, a white Power Ranger came from another dimension, stabbed your son, took his energy and left. They couldn't do that, so they just kind of like set it up to be discovered by the police. And then that, like, it was just very emotional. We have Billy crying. They're all like, you all feel weight. You feel the weight of all of it. And then I guess Jen passed out from that. They didn't really address that in that comic. I just thought she was there. And then they were like, oh yeah, she passed out. Surprise. It didn't amount to much. So she wakes up and she explains like, oh yeah, you guys are only the first Power Rangers. I mean, I guess they aren't, because Grace's team was the first, but you know what I mean. She says like, you guys are the greats in Power Rangers. Like, she shows them like a timeline, and you see all the symbols there, and you see RPM too, and RPM's in another dimension, but we're gonna let that slide. You see all the symbols of every team in like this kind of linear path. It says this is what the timeline looked like before Drakon, or Draken. I need to pronounce his name right. I think it's pronounced Draken. So this is what the timeline looked like before Draken appeared and stabbed Tommy. And then it's like a linear timeline. Then it shows basically a circle with a bunch of like dots in it, or a bunch of like cracks in it, with the symbols like that. Basically, it went from them being like alongside each other because of a flowing timeline, went from that to just this big circle with a bunch of cracks in it and other symbols inside of that. And basically she says, so the whole grid, I guess, and it collapsed, or so the whole like universe and it collapsed in on itself, because these universes are so connected, like Zeo, Dino Thunder, Turbo. Without Tommy, those seasons wouldn't be the same. So because of that, these have every show has become a pocket dimension that's isolated, so that, you know, time itself doesn't like collapse with Tommy dead. So that's pretty cool. And then basically they address like, you know, we need to go help these other dimensions. And Billy does get like a device up and running to go to other dimensions. So then we see that Draken returns to his homeworld, and he says, I need to address matters. And he shows up to Finster 5 and is like talking to him like, oh okay, yeah, we need to get ready. you don't need to, and then he says, you don't need to address me so formally, and they hug it out. And I was like, oh, he has a heart, like he has a friend. He's not just, I mean, he is a cold-blooded killer. We're not gonna dance around that. He's a cold-blooded killer, but we do see that he has a friend of sorts, who's a creepy-looking friend, but it's still a friend. So that's really interesting to see. He's not just an evil killer. He has a slight semblance of a heart, and he shows that he has Ninjor, like we all predicted. Ninjor wasn't dead. Ninjor was captured, and then what's his name? Finster 5 says, oh, okay, so now we can use this, because then we see they go to the samurai world, and I'm not sure what time this takes place in Samurai, because it feels like it's after the show has ended. For sure, it definitely feels like the show's ended, because they say that Nylock have returned and all that, and Lauren's there, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter, because Draken appears and basically kicks all their butts, except Lauren, who like is flung off a cliff. And then he takes the Samurizer, and with the power of Ninjor or something, because of Ninjor's special abilities, or his knowledge of the grid, I think. Because of Ninja's knowledge of the grid, they're able to channel the morphin energy from the Samurizer, or whatever. They'll channel the energy from the Samurizer into Draken. So now he looks like a Samurai Ranger, still fused with the Dragon and White Tiger Zord powers. So that's really cool, and I'm hoping we see him like change over time, like basically in the annual. Now I'm gonna jump straight into the annual, because that's pretty much the end of the comic. The Rangers go to the samurai world, and they save Lauren Shiba, and then they leave, and that's about it. And then at the end of the comic, they say like, oh, there's much more to conquer, the Spencer 5 Dragon. And then that's pretty much it. And then I read the annual right after this, and the annual is just so good, because we have all the different stories we have the different stories of different worlds, and it's basically Draken and his army going to these different worlds and stealing, attempting in some cases to steal the morphers, so that he can, we don't really know what his end goal is. I assume he wants, like, he retrieves a part of the power of that team each time he steals the morpher. So I'm sure he wants to like have all the Power Rangers powers, which would be pretty cool. I want to see if his form changes each time, because he gets the Zeomorpher in the first one, and he kills another Tommy. So we see he's totally willing to kill himself again. I mean, not himself, but you know what I mean. And we also see that the pocket dimension thing working, because this Zeo universe hasn't collapsed in on itself without Tommy. It still exists, but they don't remember the events of Shattered Grid. They just remember like the Black Dragon event. So obviously Shattered Grid is like an anomaly in the timeline. So that's pretty cool. We see him kill another Tommy then in that Zeo thing, and he takes the Zeonizer. Then we see him go, I think after that he goes to RPM, or no, my bad. He goes to SBD, and he's stopped by SBD because it's an academy of people that are well trained. So even without their powers, they were still able to take down Draken. And then in the RPM one, we see that Dr. K, because she's Dr. K, she was able to blow away his android. So RPM, a successful defense, because Draken's forces came as well. So a successful defense for RPM. Then after that, we had In Space, which wasn't completely successful because TJ escaped. But it can be assumed that Draken got his morpher, or he has some kind of rocket. I don't know, actually. Astromorpher? I don't know the name of the in-space morphers. But he obviously has an in-space morpher. So he kind of defeated in space, but TJ is still alive. Kind of. He's in space without a breathing apparatus, so we don't know how long that will be in effect. But in space, basically, as far as Draken cares, he's won there. And then he goes to the Ninja Steel timeline, which, I mean, let's be honest. We all hate Ninja Steel. Okay, this is gonna get weird. I don't like Ninja Steel, right? And I know there's people out there who do like Ninja Steel, so you probably enjoyed this much more than I did. But I actually didn't hate the Ninja Steel portion of the annual comic, because I thought it was, at least, it felt like an episode of Ninja Steel, which maybe is not a bad thing, or it's not a good thing. But it felt like an episode of Ninja Steel, and it was kind of, honestly, if I'm being honest, it was cool to see these characters in the comic panels, because this is obviously the most recent season we've been watching, or that I've watched at least. So for me personally, I don't like Ninja Steel that much, but it was still kind of cool to see these characters in the panels of the comic, and it felt like an episode of Ninja Steel. So I mean they felt like the same characters, I guess. It didn't feel like an episode of Ninja Steel. They felt like the same people. They felt like the same characters. So that really shows how well they're doing these comics. How, like, for all of these, it definitely felt like an episode pulled right out of the season, tied into the Shattered Grid. So we see that Brody cuts his morpher into 3 parts, and Draken takes one of the parts and he says, "Oh, melt that down. I'll use it for something." And at the end of all of these little mini stories, it says to be continued in Shattered Grid. So what I'm assuming is that in the main comic, they're going to be traversing to these different worlds and trying to save different rangers and forming like an alliance or something, or at least traversing to these different worlds and dimensions. And basically once they get there, they're gonna already like, oh yeah, we already know who Draken is and we're setting up a defense. Oh, Draken's already been here and he took our Tommy or something like that, right? So they already kind of set things up. And if you didn't read the comic, I'm sure it's kind of like the Marvel shows. In some cases, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the beginning, you could watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. alongside the movies, and you kind of had a better, like, you kind of accepted some things in the movies more because there was stuff in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But if you didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you could still understand what happened in the movies. I think the same thing is going to apply here. If you didn't read the annual, they're still going to like briefly explain it in the main comic series, so you're not confused. Like, oh yeah, Draken's already been here and we've successfully defended him. But if you want to see them successfully defend against Draken, you can read the annual. That's what I think you're going to do. This Power Rangers, this was really cool though. This Shattered Grid event is getting so good because I just love seeing like crossover events, like different people or different suits from different series working together. And I'm going to talk about a big crossover event in a couple minutes here. I love seeing crossover events like this. So the fact we're doing this with all of Power Rangers and we get to see Draken attack the different dimensions and see them defend against him is just really cool. So I'm really happy with Shattered Grid. And I also read Go-Go number 10, I think, the Shattered Grid part of Go-Go. It wasn't there wasn't too much that happened there action wise. Character wise, obviously a lot. There's something going on with Jason's father. Kimberly's father has left, so her parents are, I guess, like, I don't think they're officially divorced, but obviously they're going to do it. And then evil Kimberly shows up and attacks, and she finds out she's in the wrong time. She's like, oh man, I got here before they defeated Draken. So I think basically she was sent back in time before Draken came back. She's sent back in time to the wrong time. So now she's like, oh great, what do I do? What I assume she's gonna do is like realize, wait, if I kill them, they can never defeat Draken, so Draken is saved. But she doesn't know that, like, literally right after she left, Draken arrived. So, you know, now she's just kind of a waste. So Go-Go doesn't really feel like it's completely in the Shattered Grid event, because it's still kind of its own thing. But it does cross over a little bit. It's just because we haven't seen the Ranger Slayer, this evil Pink Kimberly, in the main series. It doesn't feel completely like a crossover event. But the Power Rangers series, or the Power Rangers comics at the very least, are totally killing it. I'm hoping the Power Ranger Hasbro buyout doesn't affect this at all. If Hasbro needs to move Power Rangers over to IDW, please just let Boom finish what it's doing now. Let Shattered Grid finish, let all these series finish, then you can move it on to IDW on the condition that we get the Power Rangers Transformers crossover. If that Power Rangers Transformers crossover will happen if you move this from Boom to IDW, go all for it, because I want that Power Rangers Transformers crossover. So Power Rangers killed it this week, or this month. Oof. And since this episode has gone on for a long while now, I'm just going to end on a quick note talking about Avengers Infinity War. And oh my gosh, actually, right before I talk about this, there will be spoilers in this Infinity War review of sorts. Not a review, really. There will be spoilers. Don't want spoilers. You know, thank you for watching, but spoiler talk. So, Avengers Infinity War was just pure awesomeness. I love seeing all these characters. As I mentioned earlier, I love crossover events. And this was the biggest crossover event in cinematic history, at the very least. So I love seeing all these characters coming together, this culmination of 10 years in the MCU. I love seeing all these characters coming together, like Thor with the Guardians, Doctor Strange with Iron Man, Spider-Man with Star-Lord. Loved everything about it. Thanos is definitely probably the best villain in the MCU. It's probably my favorite villain at the very least, because he felt like he had a heart. He feels like he's doing the right thing. Like, just the movie was just so good. I love the action scene. Every action scene delivered. Like when they're in Asgard. No, Asgard's destroyed. In the beginning, we start off right on the note with the Asgardian ship getting destroyed, which I am a little salty about. I'm going to talk about, I guess, negatives right now. I'm a little salty that we basically undid Thor Ragnarok. In Thor Ragnarok, we end with the Asgardian ship heading towards Earth with the hope of being able to rebuild Asgard, because it's not a place, it's a people. Thor has his eye patch, he's reconciled with Loki, he's accepted not having to use a hammer, he's learned to control his powers, you know, all that stuff. And then we begin Infinity War. Thanos kills Loki and every other Asgardian, so there goes the hope of making a new Asgard. Thor replaces his eye patch with a mechanical eye. There goes his new eye patch look. Thor has to get a new hammer. He's like, I need a hammer. So there goes him accepting not needing a hammer, and he also gets his hammer. So essentially, you've undid Thor Ragnarok. The only thing that has stayed is his haircut, which I'm okay with. If you had to keep one thing, I think it had to be the haircut. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie, but like the way they did it did feel right. Like, it showed how powerful Thanos is to kill an entire civilization if he had to. He didn't wipe out half the Asgardians, he wiped out all the Asgardians. And Thor actually needed his hammer for a purpose. He wasn't like, oh, I lost my hammer, I need a new hammer. He said, I need a hammer to kill Thanos. So he specifically wanted something to kill Thanos. So they actually explained that away too, because I felt like the one subplot I felt like wasn't completely necessary was the Rocket Groot Thor subplot getting the hammer, because I was like, oh, Thor just needs a new hammer, he's sad he lost Mjolnir. No, he wants a new hammer to kill Thanos, so he specifically wants a Thanos killing weapon. That was on his checklist of stuff to need. It needs someone to Bifrost, it needs to have Groot, it needs to look cool. Oh yeah, I need kill Thanos. That was the priority one, so that was really cool. And I loved in the Wakanda battle where they just poof in with the Bifrost. Everyone in my theater was clapping, and I was like, yeah, I'm clapping too. That was awesome. I love Iron Man's suit. It's just so, like, my thoughts are kind of sporadic, because if we're being honest, the movie's kind of sporadic too when it jumps from place to place. But anyway, like, I love the movie. The movie ended on such a terrifying note with Thanos looking over the sunset, and then ended with the mid-credit scene with Nick Fury disintegrating with the censorship and calling Captain Marvel. And speaking of disintegrating, all the characters when they disintegrated, for me personally, I got spoiled beforehand on who died. So it wasn't that big of a reveal for me. Like, they killed Black Panther. I mean, it still was. Like, you killed Black Panther. Black Panther made so much money. That was commercial suicide by Disney if they don't bring him back. They're gonna bring him back. They're bringing Spider-Man back too, because that was very sad when they killed Spider-Man. And now we're left with the original Avengers plus War Machine and Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think, if they didn't die too. RIP. So I keep saying this, but I loved Infinity War. I'm trying to find a way to see it again, because I just love the movie so much. Probably my favorite Marvel movie, because I just loved it so much. It was done so well. Didn't feel that overcrowded despite how many characters we had. Felt like every character had at least a small moment, and just overall Infinity War was very well done. So this month in everything was perfect, really, if we're being honest. Lupin Ranger had that one weird episode, but everything else was pretty much perfect. So I'm gonna start doing this now, since I'm doing this monthly. If we rank this series, or this month, I'm definitely putting Lupin Ranger versus Power Ranger at the bottom, at third. Because again, I did feel like that one episode was weird, and these episodes did feel pretty episodic, but they were still really well done. They're at third, but it's still really well done. In second place, I'm gonna have to give it to Build, because I love Build. Build is killing it so far, but I did feel a lot of joy from reading the Boom Studios comics. So I'm putting Power Rangers at number 1 for this month, because for Toku at least, because I just loved reading all these crossover events, seeing Boom tackle these different series, seeing what's to come for Shattered Grid and Ingogo. So loving the Power Rangers comics. So Power Rangers, Build, and Lupin Ranger vs. Power Ranger. If we have to have Infinity War for everything I've reviewed in this episode, we're just gonna move everything down a spot and put Infinity War at number 1 because Infinity War was just so awesome. So this month was just perfect, really. So if you enjoyed this episode and you want to see more stuff like this, you can check out the Talking Jujube playlist and check around for other videos on the channel if you enjoyed me talking about Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, and Transformers. Actually, I didn't talk about Transformers. But please consider hitting that big red subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.